Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Alan, for the nice introduction and for giving us a possibility to do, together with you, a workshop. Title of the workshop, How to Receive More Than Just a C of A. So, hard, yes. Okay, for those of you who do not know who Eurofins is, I can imagine some of you do not know it. I will just give you a short explanation. We are a leading bioanalytical group of more than 200 laboratories in the world with more than 20,000 people. We are present in around about 40 countries, mainly in Europe, but also in the Americas, Asia Pacific, and in South America. We are doing a lot of investment in R&D and in state-of-the-art technology, and this allows us to have rapid reaction times, even in times of crisis. Me and my colleagues, we are coming from Eurofins GFL Lab Service in Hamburg. We are the so-called Eurofins Competence Center for dioxins, PCBs, and so-called POPs testing, persistent organic pollutants. So I think everybody of you who has already dealt with laboratories, with certificates, has made the experience. Sometimes you get good certificates, sometimes you get bad ones, sometimes perhaps even uglies. And today I would like to work with you in the workshop. First step, I will collect your input. We want to know what you think, what the laboratory needs to give you a good certificate of analysis. The second step, we will group these words, these expressions, and I will ask you for your help to work together. In the third part, the third step, I will give you our ideas in a short presentation. Before we prepared for this workshop, we made up our minds and think about what we would need from you, from our customers, to do a good job for you. And as we are always interested in improving our services, the last part, we will ask you to do a questionnaire. And I can promise you, if you come back after the workshop or during the days to our booth adjacent, everybody of you who has worked with us together in this workshop will be able to get a token. So now it's up to you. What do you think? What do we need to do a good job? Any ideas from the audience? I have two assistants brought with me, some young and beautiful boys. The left one is Thomas Haug. He is a project manager of our GMP laboratory. The right one is Christian Drüppel. He is a so-called ASM, Analytical Service Manager for our ISO customers. And I'm sure some of you have already been in contact with him, mostly via email. But these days you have the possibility to meet these guys in real and discuss with them. They will collect your ideas. They will pin it on the flip charts. And this would be the first step. So please open your minds. What do you think? Please, do you have a mic? Yeah, Alan?
Randy.
Hi, Randy Hartnell from...
Yes, it works.
From Vital Choice. We've been testing products, fish oil, fish, for over 10 years. We've used your lab and several others, and I think the first and foremost thing we want is, of course, and everybody wants, is quality control. Over that period, we occasionally get results that are...
Can we get a bit louder of this mic?
So I guess we're all just looking for, quality control and results that we can depend on. And that hasn't always been the case.
So reliability.
Reliability, yes.
Okay,
thanks.
Any other idea? Okay, over there.
Do you want to work this microphone on this side? Richard Draves with American Seafoods. Accuracy is what I'm
keen on. I want to be sure that the units are reported, and they're reported in a fashion that makes sense and that they're accurate and repeatable.
Okay, thanks. Accuracy. Any other ideas? What do you expect from us to do a good job for you?
Michael, maybe you want to repeat the question one more time, just as some people are
Okay.
coming back into the room.
Yeah, so we are doing a workshop. You have to work and we go shop. No, we want to collect some ideas from the audience. We would like to know your expectations, what you think we need to do a good job for you. And we have already had 3 phrases. One was, you need our results for doing quality control. You are expecting that we provide you with reliable results. And these results have to be, of course, be accurate. So any other idea? Over there, Gerard?
Thank you, Manfred Lützow. Transparency on methods used.
Okay, very important, yeah.
I wonder, this is Ellen, I wonder how much a question is timeliness or speed to process the tests. I know there's not a lot of flexibility in that, but I wonder if that's an issue, just a question.
Of course, it's a very important issue to talk about what you need and what you want, even if you send us, even before you send samples to a lab. Exactly, very good comment.
Say it again.
To speak with the lab, communication
We can
perhaps.
go one more.
I'm a Eurofins customer, and one of the things that I've come to Eurofins for is consultation, advice.
Yeah.
There are scientists and knowledge within the organization that I utilize to help me understand maybe what I should be testing for, not necessarily what I already know.
Okay, thanks. Also a very good consultation, advice. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm David Magnussen, MBP Switzerland. Regulatory limits could be some laboratories that we use. We also use Eurofins, but some laboratories add for contaminants, certain contaminants, they add, if we ask them for Danish regulatory limits or European Union regulatory limits, American, whatever, then they add that in a column. Mm-hmm. So that it becomes very clear for external use that this is compliant with contaminant limits.
Okay, so
regulatory limits.
Regulatory needs. Mm-hmm. Any other idea, input from you? No? Okay, so this was the first step. Thank you very much. And now I would like to ask for the second step for your help. Is there a possibility to group all these explanations? Is there something similar? Are they completely different? Is there something, if you have a view on the production line, which comes first, which will be in the middle, which will be at the end? Anybody of you who wants to help my colleagues to group these phrases? Please don't be shy.
Reliability and accuracy
belong together. Okay, so Christian or Thomas? Any other idea? What's with quality control, for example? I will read. Quality control is open, regulatory needs, the methods which are used, advice or consultation, communication, and transparency. Is there a possibility to make groups of these words, of these phrases, of these keywords?
You could also add quality control to the
Exactly. Quality control belongs perfect to reliability and accuracy. Was also my idea. Thanks for helping. So what's with advice, communication? Any idea?
I was going to say, I think that's probably something that goes throughout the process. So you have advice and communication prior to the conversation, but then I think, like someone in the audience said, there's other ways that you can expand from what you are doing that also maybe after the initial testing you also have a different communication conversation.
Yeah, I would say communication is the basis for everything else. It starts with communication, communication between the lab, between our customer, between perhaps the customer of our customer, and this is a process that is very important for the whole analytical chain. Perhaps we can, communication, put it on the right table as the first thing, perhaps. Oh, yes, yeah, very good. And I think advice belongs also to communication. So we have 3 more words: regulatory needs, used methods, and transparency. Any more comments from you? No? Okay. So I would say regulatory needs, in my point of view, belongs also to the communication process, because we have to know where you want to place your certificate, where you want to place your product. And so the regulatory needs are always, in our eyes, a very important thing we have to clarify with you before we analyze your samples. And the next step, the used methods, of course, they depend from your needs, what you want to do. So I would say we can group the used methods next to it. Another very important point, Thomas, transparency. Thank you very much. I think it's also a very important thing, not only for the beginning, but also for the whole process. Perhaps we can put it somewhere in the central. Yeah, okay. So, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to you. I would say step 1 and step 2 finished. Thanks for your help. And now, I want to present what we have thought you could have in mind when you ask us to provide you with more than a certificate. You will see most of the things you have already mentioned and most of the things you already know. Doesn't work. Okay, consultation. Thank you very much. There we have it, communication. Even before shipping, it's very important to have a good communication between both of the sides before the samples arrive in our laboratory. Because sometimes we receive some samples in our lab, we do not know what we have to do with it. It says, please do PCBs. But which kind of PCBs? 209 PCBs, Dioxon-like PCBs, non-Dioxon-like PCBs. So please communicate as much and as clear as you can, even before shipping samples to your lab. Another very important point, regulatory needs. What kind of stuff do you want to send us? What is the purpose of the things you send to us? Is it a food material used as a dietary supplement, for example? Or is it only a feed going into the fish oil or fish industry? Or is it a pharmaceutical product, an API? Depending on that, you have different methods, you have different regulations, different regulatory needs, and this a lab needs to know to provide you with the exact and accurate results. ISO or GMP testing belongs to the point above. If you send an API or pharmaceutical, you have to do GMP testing. You have to be GMP conform to provide your results in a drug master file to the FDA or to the European Medical Authority. So please specify your needs. And very important for us, do you send perhaps contaminated material to us with a high contamination of dioxins and PCBs that could cause trouble in our laboratory if we do not know it? Of course, we will see it, but when we see it, we have already contaminated our columns, our vials, and we could throw them away. And so we appreciate it very, very much if our customers are so honest to tell us, please be aware, we will send you a highly contaminated material. Sometimes people aren't aware that they send us contaminated material. For example, if you have squalene in your product and send it to the lab. Squalene is shark liver oil, and as sharks are predators, very high in the food chain, they accumulate very much of dioxins and PCBs in the liver. And if you concentrate it in the oil, you have a really nice dioxin cocktail. And this is something we want to avoid to have in our lab if we do not know it. Very important for both sides, your expectations to the turnaround time, or TAT, abbreviated. Of course, we have to know your expectations, how fast you want to get the results back from your laboratory. Is it only a routine analysis you do every quarter, so time doesn't make so huge matter? Or is it a very important sample for your production process, a release testing sample where you want to release your production and your customers already waiting for your product? That's something, of course, we have to know upfront before we start our analysis, because then we can guarantee and make sure that you will receive the results in the shortest possible TAT. Other important questions: what kind of sample or analysis do you want from us? Are you sending us raw materials? So if you send raw materials, we are not astonished if there is perhaps a higher level of contamination in it, because this product isn't yet purified. But if you have a purified sample with a high contamination in it, of course it's something you do not want. And if you know the kind of sample you're sending to us, we are yes, in the scope of knowledge. Are these perhaps in-process samples? Do you send us samples from different production steps so we can see different levels of contaminations in it? That's okay. If we do not know it, we are thinking about what has happened to these samples. Is it an API, an active pharmaceutical ingredient, a very high concentrated fish oil, for example, used as a drug? And of course, you do not want to have any kind of high contamination in it. I say high contamination because I think you have to be aware that you have no dioxin-free fish oil. You will not find a dioxin-free fish oil in the world, because dioxins, unfortunately, for all of us, they are abundant all over the world. And do you need the results to do a release testing? Is the van already waiting to release the products to the customer, and you have only a very limited time to get the results? That's something we would like to know upfront, and it makes life very much easier for all of us if we do so. Doesn't work. Okay, now it works. Very important for us, sample reception at the correct address. Please be aware that you ship your samples to the right laboratory in the correct city with the correct street. We at Eurofins in Hamburg, we are run about 6 different laboratories And if you only write Eurofins Hamburg, of course you have a chance that it will arrive finally in the right lab, but it makes much very easier for all of us if you already addressed it correctly in the beginning. Another very important point, customs declaration. We shipped some material for the bags and also for our booth almost 2 weeks ago, and I've noticed and I heard that they arrived yesterday 2 hours before we arrived finally. They stood 1 week at the customs in Las Palmas, although we have a custom declaration made and although we wrote the correct letters, but that's something sometimes you can't influence. But if you haven't a customs declaration, of course you will wait longer than 1 week. Correct sample amounts, also very important. If you send samples to your lab, please be so kind to provide us with enough material. And the amount of a material very much depends on the purpose of the analysis. Is it for a GMP verification study where we have to analyze 20 or more samples? Of course, we need more material, as if you will send us only 1 or 2 samples for release testing. So please have in mind what kind of study, what kind of amount of material your lab needs. And last but not least, please ship your material in suited shipping material. For example, if you are looking for vitamins, ship your samples in light-protected vials. If you ship fresh samples, please cool them, especially in summer times. And if you're shipping oils or something else, please protect it for shock and drop. For example, this is a picture one of my colleagues in our sample reception has made. The right is a glass vial. There you can put in your 10 ml of oil, for example, can put a foil on it, fill it in a plastic beaker, put an additional foil. The clicker doesn't work. Okay, then you can put the thing with additional foils in a parcel. And if you have, for example, very urgent rush samples, you can put a sticker on it, rush sample, so the people in our central sample reception already knowledge when the courier arrives, this is an urgent sample, we have to do a special kind of treatment for it. And this, of course, is a picture of a not treated material. These are soil samples shipped in glass vials. Of course, there are some styropor chips, but obviously not enough. These glass samples broke during the shipment, and as you can see, the case was contaminated, and we could not really say which sample was which one and which sample was clean and was not. And to avoid this, to all of us, please use treated shipping material. Okay, another very important point is the matrix you want to send us for analysis. Is it a pure fish oil? Is it an ethyl ester, or are these triglycerides? Are these capsules? If you send capsules to us, please have in mind that we have to open these capsules, and we have, this needs some time. And of course, we have to be very careful in opening and extracting the oil of it to avoid, for example, further oxidation during the process. Another very important point, we want to know if you send us tocopherol, or how high is the level of tocopherol inside your oils, because if you have a very high percentage of tocopherol, sometimes our analytical columns do not like this, and it would be nice to know it upfront, and not when we see some very strange signals due to the high level of tocopherol. Another very important point are the sample preparation and cleanup with the correct methods. Already also a point, the used methods we have here collected upfront during our discussion. Because if you want to look, for example, for pesticides in ethyl esters or in triglycerides, it makes very much difference because the methods we are using in ethyl esters do not work in triglycerides and vice versa. And we have to calculate sometimes the differential distribution of results, whether the matrix has been an ethyl ester or a triglyceride. So that's something we have to know, and so we can choose the correct used method. Same is true for EPA and DHA content in ethyl esters or in triglycerides. Also a question of used methods and calculation. So please specify upfront during the communication process what you want us to do, because we can only do that what we know that we should do. No, normally pesticides are different. Sometimes you can, of course, if you're looking for pesticides, you can also elute PCBs, but this is a method, a low resolution method that is not so highly sophisticated as the high resolution method, for example. And if you want to look for dioxins, for example, you have to choose a different method. So you can't do dioxins and pesticides in one. Can you give a mic, Mark?
Well, in your slide it said that for triglycerides and ethyl esters it was different method for analysis, and I just asked if you have a sample for analysis where it's dioxin, where one sample is triglyceride and another is ethyl ester, would that apply for that as well?
No, you can use the same method for ethyl ester or for triglycerides if you want to look for dioxins. Is this a question?
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, for example, if you want to use the method in a GMP study, you have to show in the verification that our method works with your matrix. Is it ethyl ester or triglyceride? But the method itself will work for both. It's only another regulation issue you have to keep in mind. Thanks for the question. Fits very exactly in my next point, sample and purpose to get the correct certificates. So, do you want only, in brackets, an analytical report for ISO purposes? Or do you want a certificate, or do you need a certificate for GMP regulatory issues? We have to know it upfront from you. Very nice tool Eurofins developed for the ISO samples is the so-called Eurofins online system, EOL. That's 24/7 access from your desktop to our laboratory. It's web-based. You can already register your samples in your lab. You can print out barcodes if you want and barcode the samples. So there is no issue in the lab with sample mix-up because these samples are really clear marked. Another very nice thing is you have an online archive for all of your results you ordered with this tool. You get faster turnaround times because your samples are already registered in our lab before they arrive. You can retrieve customer or supplier-specific statistics. You can export every result in Excel, group it to your different vendors or customers or suppliers, and it's a simple and user-friendly interface. This that makes life easier for both sides, you, our customers, and us, your laboratory. And besides this, we have also a huge variety of helping documents. For example, how to ship samples. If you want to send a material, how much we need of it, in which sample container you should ship it, and of course, the correct address already mentioned here where to ship samples. Or custom issues, shipments from non-EU countries to Germany, what you have to have in mind to make a correct customs declaration. Or EOL, online ordering and tracking, I just showed and explained it to you. And of course also GMP and ISO testing service order forms. For each kind of testing, for each GMP or ISO testing, we can provide you with helpful material, what you have to have in mind when you send samples to us. So this was my sum up of your ideas and of our ideas. These are the people who helped me in developing this workshop. Rebecca Kudos, I think many of you know her. Christian Drippel is her successor as the ISO ASM. Thomas Haug over there, our GMP project manager. Pascal Schlenzek, who has made the photos of the samples, who has shipped our material to this Congress. Peter Schlüssel, our head of GMP, discussed with us the ideas of this workshop. The people at Eurofins GFA who did the work, who are doing analysis in the lab of your samples. You, our customers, who provide us with samples so that we can provide you with results and made experiences, good one, sometimes bad one, very limited ugly one, but every time we are facing a new challenge, we are learning. And this is what we want to show you and what you can learn from us, because we have made many experiences with different customers, and we can share our knowledge to avoid you making faults. And of course, thank you, Alan, thank you, Mike, for giving us a possibility to do this workshop with you. So, and now the last part, questionnaire. My colleagues have given a questionnaire, I think to the most people of you who have been there. It looks like this, and this is a questionnaire. You will find 10 questions on it, and you have the possibility to rate each question with 1 point. That is very important for us. Please give only per question 1 point and give only each grade 1 time, because we want to know what is really important for you. Is it a fast processing time? Is it reliability? Is it a reasonable pricing? State-of-the-art technique? Quality? Accessibility? Face-to-face meetings with us at your site or in our lab? Communication? Consulting services? And perhaps there are also additional services we do not have in mind until now, but you need them. And of course, we would be glad to develop it for you. And please be so free, fill this, and come to our booth next to this seal and discuss with us. Thank you very much, and enjoy.
Do we have any questions for Michael? I know he tricked you by asking you questions earlier, so now you get to turn the tide. Oh, Randy? Gerard right here.
Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
I noticed you mentioned your German labs. We frequently use your US labs. Do you offer the same services in both locations?
Yes and no. We are very specialized in Hamburg in our dioxin laboratory. Of course, our colleagues in Lancaster Labs, for example, are doing also dioxins, but they are doing it not according, for example, GMP. So if you want to have dioxin analysis according GMP, you have to send it to Hamburg. You can go, of course, via Eurofins US if you choose a GMP lab. because it's really necessary to have a GMP chain. But if you haven't a GMP contact of Eurofins in the States, you are invited to come directly to us, of course, yes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, well then join me again in thanking Michael. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed.